Shalom Aleichem, this is Rabbi Kovacs, and we are finishing our journey in the Mishnah Yomi through Yevamot. Today we're in chapter 16, Mishnah Vav, Me'idin L'or Haner. We can testify to seeing somebody has deceased, even if we saw them by candlelight, L'or Levana, or by moonlight. We don't have to have clear daylight. As long as we have what we've seen before, most of the facial structure or some clearly identifying simanim, indications that this is the same person. V'sin al pi bat kol. Not only that, we can marry the widow, allow the widow to get married, really, on the basis of a bat kol. Now, bat kol is an interesting topic. Sometimes in Shas, we translate this to mean a sort of lower level of divine inspiration, sort of a low-level prophecy. And sometimes it just means you've overheard someone speaking and you're not sure who was speaking. And sometimes it means you've heard an echo, like someone shouting from a canyon and you hear the echo. So the idea is, even though we're not sure who made the announcement that this man has died, we could still rely on that for the widow to remarry. As we explained before in chapter 10, this is for takanat agunot, so that women aren't stuck being an Agunah. And the reason we are lenient, we explained in chapter 10, was that a married woman, is very careful before relying on, what is really flimsy testimony that the husband is deceased. She's going to check it out and try to investigate and try to confirm this event. There was an event where they saw someone standing on the top of a hill or a mountain, and he shouted, Ish ploni ben ploni, mamakam ploni met. So-and-so, the son of so-and-so from this certain place, he's dead. Holhu, they went up to the hill to see who that guy was. V'lo matzau sham adam. They didn't find anybody there. So it could be that this man actually jumped off the mountain. Hisiyu et ishto. So they allowed the widow of the identified man to remarry. V'shuv ma'aseh, there was another event, but Salmon, a city in the Galil, be'echad she'amar, of a certain man who shouted, Ani ish ploni ben ish ploni. I am this certain man. Nishachani nochash, and God forbid, I've been bitten by a poisonous snake. Hare ani met. I'm dying. V'halchu v'lo yigru. They went to the place. They found the dead body. They didn't recognize the body because it had some disfiguration from the venom of the snake. God forbid. Hisiyu et ishto, and they allowed the widow of the identified man to remarry based on this event. On to Mishnah Zayin, the last Mishnah in Yevamot. It's very interesting. It's like the history of this halacha. Amar Rabbi Akiva says, Kashirati leNaharda la'abershana. When he went down to Naharda, that's a city in Bavel that had a large Jewish population, and he went down to literally the translation is to make the year a leap year, to make the year pregnant, to add an extra month. So normally that was done in Eretz Yisrael, as we learned way back in Masechet Rosh Hashanah this past summer. They tried to do that in Eretz Yisrael. They couldn't because the Romans had banned the court from meeting to, decide on leap years and leap months. So they went to Bavel to do this. Matzoti Nehemiah ish Beit Deli. I found there Nehemiah ish Beit Deli, who was a big sage. Amarli, and Nehemiah over in Babylon, he told Rabbi Akiva, Shemati, I heard, Shen Mesin Ataisha Beretz Yisrael, Al Piyadecha, that you don't rely on one witness to allow a widow to get remarried over there in Eretz Yisrael. El Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. Only Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava is a great enough sage to go ahead and find a heter to give permission to these agunot to remarry based on one witness. The Numeiti lo, so Rabbi Akiva responded to Nehemiah, Ken Advarim, it's true. It's only Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava in Eretz Yisrael who is mater these agunot based on one witness. Everyone else, it seemed, was too scared at the time to rely on it. This actually reminds me, there was a Maisa in modern times about 20 years ago. Rav Ovadia Yosef Zatzal was an expert in writing tshuvot for agunot, in being, releasing women who were, anchored and didn't know what to do from their situations. They could remarry. And he suffered a heart attack, and the doctors needed to perform emergency surgery. He said, you'll have to wait a couple hours. I need to go home and finish this tshuva for an Agunah so she can remarry. The doctor said, no, you could die, God forbid, in those next 2 hours. He said, no, I have to write this because I don't think anyone else out there could finish writing this tshuva to allow this poor woman to get remarried. She has no one else except me who is an expert enough, who has gone through the situation enough to actually allow her. So he went home for a couple hours, finished the tshuva, then went to the hospital for emergency cardiac surgery. So back to the Mishnah. Amar li, so Nehemiah says to Rabbi Akiva, who's visiting from Eretz Yisrael, Amor lehem, tell the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, Mishmi, from my name, Atem yodim, you should know, she hamedina mishubeshet begaisut. The roads have bandits and outlaws and armies on them, so I can't go myself to tell them. So when you, Rabbi Akiva, go back to Israel, tell them in my name, Mikubloni, Mirabin Gamliel Hazaken, I have a Kabbalah, I have a clear teaching to Rabbi Gamliel, the elder, Shemasiin at Isha al Piyadechad, that yes, we do rely on one witness, even a non-kosher witness, usually to allow an Agunah to get remarried. So now Rabbi Akiva continues the story. Kishiboti, when I came back to Israel, I presented this tradition to Rabban Gamliel. No, this Rabban Gamliel in Israel is the grandson of Rabban Gamliel HaZaken, who is on record as allowing a widow, an Agunah, to get remarried based on one witness. Samach lidvarai. He was very happy to hear that his grandfather had been lenient and allowed reliance on one witness for a woman to remarry who was otherwise stuck. Amar, and he said, Matzanu chaver, we found a companion, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, who until then had been the only one who was lenient, now the rest of the sages in Eretz Yisrael were lenient. Metocha Devarim, and from this discussion, Nizkar Rabban Gamliel remembered an event that happened earlier. Shnehargu Harugim beTel Arza. Many men were murdered at Tel Arza. Hisi Rabban Gamliel Azokin Nishotayan, and his grandfather had allowed the widows to be remarried, al pi eid echad, on the basis of one witness. B'chuksaku liot mesin al pi eid echad, and the chazaka was they could get remarried based on one person's testimony. B'chuksaku, and the chazaka they made was liot mesin eid mipi eid, even if it wasn't the witness to those deaths, but the witness who heard from the eyewitness, or mipi eved, or from a servant, mipi isha, or from a woman, maybe shifcha, or a female servant. People are not normally qualified to be witnesses in the court. And the Mishnah brings a dissenting opinion. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, Omrim, they said, Ein masin et isha al pi eid echad. We wouldn't rely on one witness to allow a widow to get remarried. Rabbi Akiva says, Lo al pi isha. We might rely on one man, but not on one woman. V'lo al pi eved, lo al pi shifcha, or a servant eved kanani. V'lo al pi krovim, and not from relatives. Amru lo, the sages said back to him, they're telling Rabbi Akiva, why do you rely on one man but not one woman? Maaseh b'nei Levi, there were Leviim, shahalchu litzoar, they went to Tzoar, the city of the date palms, probably to pick some date palms or maybe to get some dates. V'holo echod mehen b'derech, one of them became very ill on the way to Tzoar. V'heviuhu b'punduk, they brought him into an inn, paid for his room, and the innkeeper was not even Jewish. B'charazotam, when they came back from Tzoar, Amru, these Leviim, they said lepundakit to this non-Jewish woman, Ayi chavrinu, where's our friend? Amr lahem, she said to them, Met kvartiv, he passed away unfortunately from his illness, and I had to bury him. Esiyu et ishto, and when they came back to town, these sages allowed the widow of this man to remarry based on a non-Jewish innkeeper's testimony. Amru lo, so the sages are arguing against Rabbi Akiva. They said, Lo to hey kohenet kibendakit. Wouldn't a Jewish woman, or the daughter of a Kohen, the wife of a Kohen, a real Jewish woman, be at least as believed as a non-Jewish innkeeper? Amlahem, Rabbi Akiva responded to them, Lekishatei pundokit neminit. Yeah, if that innkeeper was trusted based on her own testimony, then yes, I would trust any woman, Jewish or non-Jewish, to testify. But Rabbi Akiva points out they didn't rely merely on her words. Hapundakit hotzia lahem. When the Leviim came back, she brought out for them maklo, the walking staff of this deceased man, tarmilo, his bundle, like his backpack, the Sefer Torah, and the Sefer Torah he always used to carry around and learn from. So it wasn't just her testimony, there were actual, some evidence, some factual evidence that confirmed her words. That's why they relied on her. The Kehati here points out that Halacha, we do rely on one witness, and of course it's a very great shaila for the greatest sages in our generation when such events, God forbid, do take place to allow the Agunah to remarry. It's not something we just do willy-nilly, but it can be done. And one more interesting observation is that the first time Yibum comes up in the Torah was Yehuda and Tamar was given some of the personal items of Yehuda, said, Hakerna, you can recognize who the pregnancy is from based on these items. And that's why Yehuda admitted, Sodka Mimeni, it's from me. And she's right. And here by this deceased Levi, we had the same thing happen. The items proved the words. And finally, it's really interesting that this sick Levi had a Sefer Torah, Shahaya Biyado. The Mishnah says his Torah was always in his hand. So thank God we have some of us have the pocket-sized Mishnayot. You can have the Mishnayot in your Pelephone, in your smartphone. You can take Torah with you. Nowadays, it's easy to take Torah with you. You don't have to, buy an expensive Sefer Torah, travel size. You can really have it with you 24/7. So Baruch Hashem, all of us should be Mekayim, the ideal of taking the Torah with us and learning the Torah every single day. Mazel Tov, tomorrow B'ezrat Hashem we start Ketuvot.